Hello, my name is Doug Engelbrecht, and I've been invited to introduce you to the voyage of discovery you are going to make through the field of information and knowledge management. My academic interests derive from a fascination with science and engineering and how technology manifests both the best and worst of business process management. I'm curious as to the interplay between human sociology and technology-based systems. In other words, the interface between our desire to realize ambitious dreams and our limited capacity to realize those dreams, except of course where technology compensates for our human frailty. Technology that allows us to be faster, more precise, better at doing whatever it is that we humans do. I hope my fascination rubs off on you. Please join me as we investigate the mysteries of information technology and information systems. There are 9 outcomes anticipated to arise from your study of this module. The first one is an understanding of the modern trends in information systems used in business and how these systems influence strategic and organizational decision-making. The second is an ability to describe the components and characteristics of information systems. An ability to clarify the strategic value of information and explain the role of information systems in contemporary, competitive business environments. 4, an understanding of the emergence and value of knowledge management systems for business. Number 5, an understanding of the dynamics of knowledge and how these dynamics can be managed effectively. At 6, an understanding of the importance of intellectual capital and knowledge assets and their management. Number 7, an understanding of the distinction between organizational learning and the learning organization and how these can lead to competitive advantage. Ultimately, we want you to demonstrate an understanding of information systems strategy and its relationship with knowledge management strategies, as well as information management systems and knowledge management systems, appreciating how each adds value to the organization. This means that you will demonstrate that you can identify and understand the tools and processes of information management, as well as the tools and processes of knowledge management, so that you can make reasoned recommendations for the leverage of information and knowledge in an organizational context. Let's just pause for some reflection here. You registered for this degree because you wanted to improve your career prospects. Of this I have little doubt, but I'm sure you also want to improve your performance, your credibility, your reputation as a deep thinker and also as an action-oriented doer. Someone to turn to for guidance and direction, someone with a level head and an ability to devise solutions to business problems. Frankly, that's what postgraduate study is there for, to groom you, to develop your intellectual potential, to harness that potential and thrust you forward to blaze a trail in your business sector. From an education point of view, we can explain this as learning outcomes. In a very dry way, we refer to enhancing the scope of your knowledge, and simply this means we want you to demonstrate specialist knowledge. In other words, demonstrate that you are up to date with current practice in your field of specialization, as well as developments in fields of practice that lie outside of your scope of specialization. We also talk about knowledge literacy, which simply means that you demonstrate the ability to evaluate current processes of knowledge production, and that you can choose an appropriate process of inquiry to interrogate a particular problem. Your assignments, for example, will distinguish you as having elevated your knowledge literacy. Your use of method and procedure, your problem solving, your ethical and professional practice, accountability for your performance and management of your learning are all learning outcomes that we groom by exposing you to contextualized problems and dilemmas, puzzles and predicaments. Your accountability is obligated by having to manage how you access and process and manage information acquisition. Your writing skills are simultaneously developed as you learn to comprehensively review authoritative and leading research and to produce insightful summary and commentary. Here's something for you to reflect on. In the words of fellow scholar Robert Morell, universities are spaces where people are free to listen, speak, write, think, learn, imagine, persuade, dissent, study, analyze, and reflect. Let's move on. IBM, that computing colossus that can date its inception to the 19th century, proposes that there are 3 phases of computing technology and that we are in the 3rd stage. The first era was characterized by mechanical tabulating machines that used punched cards to input data and to store data and to count data. The first computers then were really calculators, and they introduced an economy of scale and an efficiency that allowed us to make better sense of our world from about the 1900s, early 1900s to the 1940s. In the 1940s, military and scientific requirements served as the impetus for the development of electronic systems. Hence, IBM called the period from about 1950 to as recently as 2010 the programming era, a period characterized by increasing programming capability and processing capability, the one feeding off the other and giving rise to an exceptionally rapid progression of computing power and capacity. In the middle of this period, in 1979, IBM introduced the world to the personal computer, and personal productivity took a leap. If you're watching this short film, you are most likely to be a knowledge worker, someone whose job revolves around the reduction of information to data and the reorganization of that data to inspire new information and hence new knowledge. IBM maintain that we embarked on an exciting new phase of computer technology from about 2011, what you have heard called artificial intelligence, and what IBM prefer to call cognitive computing. This era was predicted as long ago as 1960 by computing pioneer J.C.R. Lydekker, who proposed that man-computer symbiosis is an expected development in cooperative interaction between men and electronic computers. It will involve very close coupling between the human and the electronic members of the partnership. The main aims are: 1. To let computers facilitate formulative thinking as they now facilitate the solution of formulated problems. And 2. To enable men and computers to cooperate in making decisions and controlling complex situations without inflexible dependence on predetermined programs. Preliminary analysis indicate that the symbiotic partnership will perform intellectual operations much more effectively than man alone can perform them. It's now more than 50 years on, and oceans of data and the ability to manipulate data in parallel processing formats suggests that we can program computers to think in human-like ways, to combine the data analytics and statistical reasoning of machines with uniquely human qualities, self-directed goals, common sense, and ethical values. You recognize, of course, that your role here will be to direct this, to steer it, to position it, so that the human race finds solutions to the pressing problems of this stage in our development as a species. To help you fulfill that role, we need to prime you to come to grips with some fundamentals. The first of these is the value proposition of information and knowledge management. To this we add the conceptual foundation: data capture, data storage, data transport, data manipulation, data retrieval, and data analytics. The technical foundation comprises the IT infrastructure and information management systems, and we move from there to business application, management information systems, enterprise systems, and channel disintermediation, which, by the way, is just a grand term for e-commerce. Finally, the caveats: information security and responsible and ethical information practice. You will undertake an assignment, and that is aimed at persuading you to read as widely as possible, interpreting the body of knowledge and reporting on the triumphs as well as the disasters and the potential weak points in the case firm's information strategy. Ultimately, and I think especially so in a distance learning environment, assessments are mechanisms to evaluate, firstly, your content comprehension, and secondly, your cognitive process. Your submission will be evaluated according to a set of criteria that seek to measure your accomplishment of the learning objectives. Well, I think that might be enough for this short film. I have shared with you the 9 anticipated module outcomes anticipated to arise from your attempt at this module. I've addressed the implication of those outcomes as learning objectives, and I've noted that cognitive development is the primary goal. We're trying to help you become a business guru. We've also looked at the phases of computing, from the tabulation era to the programming era, and now, where we find ourselves embarking on the cognitive computing era. And finally, I've shared with you the fundamentals of this module: information management's value proposition, the conceptual and technical foundations on which this is premised, the business applications, and the caveats, in other words, the positives and negatives of computing-based information and knowledge management. I hope you enjoy this module. Thank you for watching.